Are we going to do a little study on Hanukkah before the holiday?
That's a great question. With your encouragement, maybe one day we'll put some focus on it. How do you like that, Ralph?
Okay, well, it's getting close. So today's
Right,
the 16th, 17th.
right,
I lose track of the time
right.
now.
Okay, we're on Gimel Amud Aleph. Really we're off to Gimel Amud Bet, 3b. We just said something very interesting idea. We just said that there's a difference between the body of the person and the hand of the person. We said that the body of the person is resting on the ground. You're standing on the ground. And therefore, since you're standing on the ground, if you have something that's connected to you, if you have a backpack, we said that you put food on, and someone put food on your back, and you walked out of the room with that. You went from private property to public property with their backpack. We said that's called that you have uprooted from your place because it's considered that the backpack, which is on your body, was resting. It's considered resting on the ground because your body's on the ground. You are resting on the ground. So when you move, it's considered and the item itself is connected to your body, and the back, and therefore we're going to consider you moving. If you walk from private property, even though someone loaded you up, you did not pick up the item. Someone picked it, put it on your back. It's considered that you went ahead and you uprooted the item when you started walking. And remember, because you were stationary when the guy put it on your back, and now you went ahead and you walked out of the private property and you placed it down, and you went from private to public and you placed it down at public property. So we say that's called that you uprooted the item. It's called an akira. And on Shabbat, the person will be out violating the Shabbat, going from private to public. However, the Gemara said, your hand, we said, is different than the body. Your hand is in the air, so to speak. Your hand is not resting. In contrast to your back, when you're stationary, your back is resting. And your hand, we look at your hand, that we look at a hand that it's not resting. And because a hand is not resting, so if somebody goes ahead and if you stretch your hand from public property into private property, and the person went ahead and placed something in your hand, right? You were in public property. Let's say the poor man was outside. He put his hand inside, and the guy on the inside put something in his hand, right? So now the poor man's hand is inside the house, and now he received something in his hand. He didn't take it from the guy in the house. He was given to him. So we say, and then the poor man brings it outside. We say we don't consider that the poor man uprooted the item. If he would have taken it from the guy inside, if he would have taken it, the poor man on the outside sticks his hand inside and takes it out from the guy inside. He picked it up from the guy inside. He uprooted from the guy inside and he brought it outside. That would be violation, Torah violation. But since he did not take it out of the hand of the guy inside. The guy on the inside handed to him. He was standing outside, and the guy on the outside stuck his hand inside, and the guy on the inside placed it in his hand. So the item was uprooted by the first guy on the inside. Now the question is, now the item is in his hand, and now he moves his hand from that private property into public property where he's standing. We say that the hand, it's not considered resting in the hand. We say that the hand is not considered that it's resting in the hand. When the hand is in one domain and the body is in another domain, we don't look at it like it's resting in the hand of that person. And if it's not resting in the hand of that person, then it's not considered he uprooted the item. So therefore, we say that the poor man on the outside who sticks his hand inside, and the guy on the inside places something in the poor man's hand, the poor man did not violate the Torah's prohibition of carrying from private to public, because we don't consider his hand when it's in a different domain as if it's resting.
Can we
And
back up a second, Rabbi?
yes,
You said the backpack is part of the person. Is that not considered carrying?
so we see it's part of the person, and it's considered that if the person is stationary in private property, someone puts a backpack on its back, it's considered that the backpack is rested. It's resting because his body is on the ground, his feet's on the ground. The backpack is on his body, which is stationary. So we look at the backpack that is resting, and if the guy subsequently walks, that walking is considered picking up the item. It's considered uprooting the item. And therefore he would violate. If someone is a private property and someone else puts a backpack on him, technically, it would be a violation of Shabbat. If someone would say, it would be a violation of Shabbat because he's going from private to public. He uprooted himself. When he walks, the second, meaning he was stationary in private. Someone put something on his back, and then he walks out. The second he starts walking, that's like picking up the item. We look like the item is considered resting while it's on his back, and therefore when he walks out, it's considered that he moved the item. Good morning, Murray, and therefore he is in violation of the he's in violation of the Shabbat.
What about wearing glasses?
So wearing glasses is like part of your eyes. It's like part of your. It's like wearing glasses. Morning, Morris. Morris, you're on my mind this morning. See if I think about Morris. Here he comes. Good to see you, Morris. Yeah, that's part of you. That's part of you. The glasses. Morning. Just like if a person can't walk without crutches, right? So the crutches are part of him. It's like part of his feet.
What about hanging a key in your jacket? Hanging a key.
Right, so hanging a key is not. That's a problem, because if in a place where you're not allowed to carry, if a person hangs the key, really he's just carrying the key. Meaning, if you make what people do on Shabbat is they make a key in the form of a tie clip. So the key is really not, it's serving as a holding your tie to this place. And therefore, that's what many people do to avoid the issue. But just I've seen what you mentioned, but it's not appropriate. It's not proper. But just if a person wraps a key around their neck and they put a key and the king is hanging, that would not be good. If they would make a key into some sort of, sometimes what they do is they make a Shabbos key, some sort of design or something that they make it in an ornament, something that's like more of a piece of jewelry, something beautiful, then that's appropriate. That would be fine because you're not carrying. Again, that also would, if you're wearing, just like you wear a necklace, a necklace is considered, piece of jewelry. It's part of it. It's like, it's part of you in a certain sense. It's like it might be like part of your clothing. We'll have to see more when we learn about jewelry, exactly how but that would be, that's not called carrying, but but that would be an issue. So people have to be aware. Now, yes.
What happens if you put a key on your chain and carrying over around your neck?
But the problem is, you really, in essence, you're carrying the key. You didn't make the key into any sort of ornament. It's not, the key is not something that's you didn't make it a gold something that you're using as a something, with a design, and you made something beautiful. What people also do is they have something called a Shabbat belt. A Shabbat belt is that they, instead of having, they use the key is used as what do you call this, Mars? What this is called?
Buckle.
By the buckle, it's used Instead, it's serving a purpose. They make the key as part of the belt that they let's say it's like you have like imagine you have like this thing, right? And instead of having the metal piece that, if you want to show, instead of having this, they have this as the key. So the key, right, Morris, is serving the point of this. So therefore, that's again, it's part of clothing, and it's being used in a certain way, whether it's a tie clip, whether it's used. I've seen Shabbos belts that it's like a little, it's like a certain belt, and then the end of the belt that you're going to use to close it, that will be the key. You stick the key in and serve that. People have been very creative to deal with the issue because it's a serious issue on Shabbat. There are people that, what do they do with their keys? So, some people hide their keys under their mat. Some people, and that's if, you can't, if you go from, a lot of people have, a private property in front of their door. So, outside their door is not considered public property if it's, if it's gated, or they make some sort of Eruv between in front of their house, on their front lawn or whatever. So over there, some people just keep a key, or, if they keep a key there and they just open the door and then they just put the key back down. So there are what I think is the best answer. What do you say? Like Mara says, not to carry a key, but what do we do is the Shabbos locks. That you just do a code. You just press a code. You just have I mean, why it's hard to because might be the city is hard to get. There are locksmiths. You can just get a nice religious Israeli. He'll take care of it for you. That's who did it for who did it for me.
So Murray Dayon gives the key to his doorman before he leaves. So that's what he does.
Very good. That's a way to do it. People have to figure it out. Like anything else in life, you got to come up with a plan. What's the plan? I feel very bad. People who live on high floors. Okay, that's what I'm saying. But you're a very God-fearing Jew, and you're the right man, Morris. Right? How high do you live? 16. Okay, you're a God. I live. You're a God-fearing Jew, and that you do it right. But I wonder, what about people who are not on your level, Morris? So then they have something that they get the guard to press the button every time, but that's not really the ideal thing to have a guard press the button for you every time. And then there's questions if are you adding to the weight, adding to electricity? It's a good question. And that's how they went up. Okay, because that the way they did it is because he did it because it was done. He got benefit. It was for himself, and then they went in with the elevator. That's what you're saying. Okay, so maybe that's what they held that it was not a problem. But again, it's a person to buy an apartment, to rent an apartment in a place that they're gonna all the time have to use a doorman to open the elevator for them, press the elevator button. That's not something that people should be doing because they're asking a Gentile to do work for them on Shabbat on a regular, in that type of way, every time,
I know there's Shabbat elevators like in the hospital. They have
right, sure, right.
Goes on every floor.
Right, my building we have a Shabbat elevator, so that's really so people should either move into a building that has Shabbat elevators, move to a low floor. You know what I'm saying? Not if maybe the apartment on the low floor is not as the view is not as nice as the apartment on the 22nd floor, but you don't want to play around with the Shabbat. The people should be doing. Morris, you hear what I'm saying? You got to encourage people to. Okay, but you hear what I'm saying, Morris? Also, people got to make it easy for their wife also. You know what I'm saying? Their wife, well, if a wife wants, it's easy for a man to walk up 20 flights. It might not be so easy for a lady to walk up 20 flights. I don't know. Also, every situation is different. Maybe someone's married to a woman who's a marathon runner. I don't know. I'm just saying, I don't know. I'm making a little joke. Morning. I don't know if that's such a good idea that she should be a marathon runner in the marathon. Maybe she could, whatever. She should be in good shape. That's the healthy thing, right, Morris? but people have to know why people put themselves into positions of challenges. Morris, you got to tell everybody. You got to encourage everybody to hear what I'm saying, Ralph. Let's make it easy for people to be successful. And what was one of the reasons why the rabbi said that you should not, the rabbi, I can't ask a guy to do certain things for me on Shabbat. What was the reason for that? Why can't I ask the guy? The Torah says I can't do work on Shabbat. But if I have the guy do the work on Shabbat to me, what's the problem? So the answer is, one of the reasons is because if I get into this habit, if I would use a Gentile to do things for me, so what happens the day the Gentile doesn't show up? I might do it myself because I'm used to having it. Let's say every Shabbat, I'm used to having the Gentile, open the, what's that? I understand, but your full-time help is not necessarily doing something for you that you can't do on Shabbat yourself. You can have full-time help to help the baby. You can have full-time help to clean the dishes. These are things that you could do yourself. But if there was something that, right, what is the cleaning doing in the house? The person has full-time help. What does the lady do in the house? Her job there in the house is not to open lights for you. Her job is not to cook for you. She's cleaning. Her job is to clean things that you really, she can clean it the way you clean, the way you could clean a Shabbat. If she wants to go ahead and do more than what that you're not asking her to do, you don't ask her to vacuum the floor on Shabbat. You know what I'm saying? You don't ask her to do certain things. You don't ask her to use hot water, right? She wants to use hot water to make it easy for herself. She can use hot water to make it easy for herself, right? She wants to clean dishes with hot water. You're not asking her to do that. She wants to do that for herself. But let's say you got used to her open every time you have a room, and every time you want to read in that room, and you like to conserve energy, okay? And every time imagine if a person would ask the Gentile to open the light for me in my reading room every night, every Friday night. What happens if the Gentile doesn't show up? If you get used to having the thing being done for you, and I'm afraid that could happen by a guy with a building with an elevator, right? A guy lives on the 35th floor. Every week, the non-Jew is pressing the elevator for him. What happens the day the non-Jew doesn't show up? He's waiting. He's delayed. Then the guy might chas v'shalom do it himself. He's used to getting the act done by this act of work was been done for him always by a Gentile, and he might get used to it, and he might come to do it himself. So that's one of the reasons why the rabbi said, I cannot have a Gentile do something for me on Shabbat. Now, there's certain circumstances we allow it. It's allowed to be done, right? And circumstances, whatever that is. But to have this type of setup on a regular basis that I'm going to have the Gentile do something for me, you understand that we're getting used to having work being done for me on Shabbat. Morris, you hear the interesting rationale. Why the rabbis create fences. When you have a good fence, it makes things safe. When you don't have fences, it's just like the laws of Nidah, right? The rabbi said you can't, you can't sleep in the same bed when the ladies are Nidah. You understand why? If you sleep in the same bed when the ladies are Nidah, you say, Rabbi, I'm not going to touch her. I'm not going to do anything. But you have to have fences. You have to create fences, and that creates success. You don't come close. People shouldn't come close to sinning. So that's what the Gemara says. Now we are on Gimel Amabed. Morris, you have the ArtScroll Hebrew English, correct? Yeah, because we have many of them are French. We're getting the Hebrew English soon. Okay. Yeah, Gimel Amabed, 3B, 3B1. You got it? Amalei Rav Chia l'Rav. Rav Chia says to Rav, Bar Pachte. He refers to him the son of great rabbis. Rav Chia says to Rav, Bar Pachte, lo aminalach, have I not already told you? Now, let's just to bring everybody up to date. What's the Gemara is talking about over here? That Rav asked a question to Rebbe. Rav asked a certain question to Rebbe, and Rebbe gave an answer. But the issue is, when you talk to a rabbi, when you ask him a question, you have to find out if you're asking him a question in a certain tractate, right? It wasn't a specific halachic question that I need to know, regarding Shabbat. What do I do with the Shabbat? How do I deal with the key situation, right? Then you ask the rabbi. Any question you can ask the rabbi, a practical halachic question. But if you're asking a question on a let's say a Talmudic issue, a discussion that a Talmudic issue, discussing the details of a certain law, not for practical, that I have a practical situation I need to know now. So then you want to speak to someone who is studying that tractate. But if the rabbi is not studying that tractate, so he might come, morning, Aaron, good to see you. If he's not studying that tractate, he might come to make a mistake, because when you're asking him a certain situation type of question, so you want to ask the person who's in that tractate. So you might want to ask him, are you studying that tractate now? So here, Rav asked this question, a interesting type of question, a technical question regarding the laws of Shabbat. And by the way, I hope, because we're learning the laws of Shabbat, everybody, the Shabbat, it will strengthen our Shabbat, awareness of all the laws. But he asked him a question, and being that he might not have been studying that tractate, he might make a mistake, and he might be very embarrassed. He might embarrass the man. He might say, I don't know the answer to the question, or he might not say, I might not know the answer to the question. And he won't know the answer, or he won't give a proper. So therefore, I told you should not ask him the question unless he is spending time in that tractate. Good morning, good to see you, welcome back. And that Masechta. So that is, so he gave him a little musar, little criticism, that you should first find out if he's studying that tractate before you ask him the question regarding that tractate. But because he's such a great rabbi, he answered the right answer, even though he might not have been studying that tractate. That's what the Gemara says. Amalei Rav Chia l'Rav. Rav Chia says to Rav, Bar Pachte, son of Gedolim. Aaron, you got it? 3b, son of Gedolim. Lo amin alav. Didn't I tell you? Ki kai Rebbe behind Masechta. When Rebbe is studying this tractate, lo tishalei Masechta Achriti. Don't ask him about a different tractate. Dilma lavadaite. Maybe he's not focused on it, and he's not going to give you a proper answer. And the ilav the Rebbe Gavarabahu, if it wouldn't be that Rebbe is a Gavarabah, Gavarabah means is an Adam Gadol, he's a big rabbi. Kasafte, you would have embarrassed him. The Mishani la shinuya de lav shinuyu. He might have given you not appropriate answer, and that's embarrassing. So it's interesting how we're sensitive. Now, it's interesting, what is the concern is that you might have embarrassed him? Or maybe the concern will be that maybe the law, where he will tell you the wrong law. So it could be that it's not that they're asking, like we said beforehand. The issue here is if you're coming to ask a practical halachic question, so then we said you have a right to ask anything, but the rabbi should know the answer to any practical halachic question. But here it's not the question of maybe he's going to tell you a wrong answer, and there'll be a practical and people will make a mistake in the practical halacha, because let's say it was not a question in a practical application, perhaps. So therefore the embarrassment, the concern is not about a distortion of the proper law. Rather, because when it comes to practical law, maybe they'll make sure if it's a practical question. But here it's a question about a general, what would be in a certain scenario, what would be the law? It's more of a hypothetical question of law, so then you might embarrass him. We're coming off the Parshiot of embarrassment. We're probably coming off, you know, we're learning about Tamar, how Tamar was so careful not to not to embarrass, Yehuda. So we have a lot of, we have Rachel and Leah, not to embarrass. We have so many parshiot that deal with focus of people not embarrassing anybody. So this week will be about Tamar. So that is was sensitive to embarrassment. By the way, one of the 613 mitzvot is you're not allowed to verbally abuse somebody. You're not allowed to, and part of that is you're not allowed to embarrass somebody. Not only that, the Torah says that when you give musar, right? When you give if someone does something wrong, let's say if I do something wrong, you're supposed to call me over to the side, good morning, and tell me, Rabbi, I think you said something that wasn't nice. Chas v'shalom. Well, if someone does something wrong, you're not allowed to go ahead and tell him in public. Torah says, you have a mitzvah. If someone does something wrong, you have a responsibility to say something to him, right, Asaf? If someone does something wrong, you have a responsibility to say something. But how do you say it? The way you say it, and say it in private, that's the Torah is sensitive. Torah says, don't get a sin while you're right, Aaron. You're trying to improve the person. He's doing something wrong, but don't embarrass him. But don't say it in public. A lot of people aren't careful about that. Some people call somebody out in public, and especially today, on the internet, people are very free to send just embarrass a guy, say something about his store. I went to his store and boom, he tells the whole world how he wasn't happy with the coffee in the store. The iced coffee, I don't like the iced coffee. Too much sugar, too much ice. I don't know what people have complaints about everything. Not Morris, of course, but get what I'm saying? And then the guy, someone was telling, I heard someone yesterday speaking about somebody, something went viral or whatever. What? The restaurant, and boom, the restaurant's already out of business. They have to close business. People say things and they're not sensitive and what they're saying. I told somebody, you know what? You feel free to comment on everybody. What about if it was your father's store? And would you be happy someone comment about your father's bakery, whatever? People are not thinking enough, being up. And the Torah, you just follow. If you follow the Torah, you see how you have to be sensitive. You think the restaurant the service wasn't good? Call the manager. Talk to the manager. Don't tell the world. What are you telling the world? I want to speak to the manager. We'll talk to the manager. Whatever it is. Either talk. The general rule is when someone doesn't do something right, you talk directly to that party. You don't tell the other guy. Deal directly with the party. And if you can't, if you tried, you can't. If you don't get through, you have to directly to the party. So then there's the question. Then there's another, the next step. It's the same thing in a school. People have children in school, and you feel the teacher's not acting properly. What do? You go to the principal, or you go to the teacher. You go to the teacher. You say to the teacher. You have a conversation with the teacher. Don't rat to the principal about the teacher. You feel the teacher's giving too much homework. You feel the teacher's not giving enough homework. Whatever it might be, you bring. Talk to the teacher. Don't make the teacher look bad, in the eyes of the principal when it's something that you could deal with directly with the teacher. Okay. So now the Gemara says Hashta, but Hashta Mia Shapa Mishanim, meaning if he wouldn't have been a great rabbi, maybe you would have embarrassed him because the Mishanilach Shnidlav he would have given you maybe a proper and not the proper answer. But Hashta Mia Shapa Mishanilach, he gave you the proper answer. And how do we know? The Tanya went to the Braita. If a person put on his body, literally you put on your back, you put food and drink, yom, from before Shabbat. So before Shabbat, you had on your back food. Now, whatever you put on your back before Shabbat, if you uprooted an item before Shabbat, we said in order to violate Shabbat, there are 2 steps have to be done. Has to be an akira and a hanacha. You have to uproot an item and you have to place it down. You have to uproot it from private and place it in public, or uproot it in public and place it in private, right? or uproot it in public property and go 4 amot in public property. Those are the ways. But if you do one step and not the other, there's no Torah violation. It might be rabbinic violations. So we have a case. A guy has on his back food from, let's say, Shabbat this week. Shabbat candle lighting is around 4:10 or so. Let's say sunset is around 4:30. So let's say at around 4:15, before sunset, he has stuff on his back. And then at then when it came, let's say, then the Friday night at about 5:30, 5:20. Now, after sunset, you have to consider it like Shabbat, because it's already, once it's sunset, you can't do malacha. So let's say when it get dark on Shabbat, he started walking with the food that was on his back. It was loaded on his back before Shabbat, and and then he stopped. Once Shabbat came, at a certain time when Shabbat came, he stopped. He was in the house, he stopped, and then he walked out of the house with the backpack on him. So we say that even though the backpack was uprooted by the moving of his body, right? He walked, it was on his back. He didn't pick it up. Once it was Shabbat, he didn't pick it up. It was already on him. But what he did when it was Shabbat, once it was Shabbat, he started walking with it. He walked, he was stationary in private property, and he walked out in public property, and he placed the backpack down. So we say that's a violation of Shabbat. That's a biblical violation of Shabbat, even though when Shabbat came, he never picked up the item from the ground. Where was the item? It was on his back. He went in, but he walked out. That walking of the body, the same way if you would have picked up the item from the ground, that's called picking up the item. The body moving with an item in the back is also called uprooting the item. And the Gemara says why? Because your body is stationary. If the backpack is on your back, it's stationary. It's resting. Since it's called resting, now when you walk, you're uprooting the item, and that's called akira. And then when you go with the public property doctor, you want to have a great day, and you put it down, that's hanacha. That's what the Gemara says. The Tanya, hayata'un ochalinu mashkim. A person was standing in private property and he had food or drink. Yom that was on his back. And he brought it outside when it came dark. Chayav. He's obligated a korban chatat. He's obligated a sin offering for unintentionally violating the Shabbat. Lefi she'ena domeh liyado. And the Gemara says it's not comparable to your hand. Good morning. It's not comparable to your hand. We said your hand, if somebody placed something, if someone's a poor man and he's on the outside and he places his hand inside the private property, he's standing outside the door and he puts his hand inside. And the balabayit, the owner of the house, places a piece of food in his hand, right? So he places a piece of food in his hand. So let's say he places the food in his hand, and his hand is in private property. But he's standing in public property. And he takes his hand out from private to public. We don't consider that it's resting in private property. We don't look, meaning if the poor man would have stuck his hand inside and take out of the hand of the balabayit, if he picked it out of the hand, say he uprooted it. The poor man took it out from private and put it down in public. That would be a violation of Shabbat. But if the poor man stuck his hand inside and did not take it out of the hand of the owner of the house, he put his hand inside and the balabayit put it in his hand. So the balabayit did the akira. The balabayit uprooted the item. Now that he placed it in his hand of the poor man, we don't look at the hand as not looked at as if it's resting. We don't consider the hand. The hand is not. It's not like the body that's standing on the ground. And we look at the hand that it's not considered resting. So the fact that he moves his hand outside, it's not considered that he uprooted something from that was a place that was resting. Let's say the bread went into his hand. We don't look at he picked up the bread from a resting place, because if the hand is not considered resting, so therefore there was no uprooting of the item, and therefore if he takes it outside, there's not the violation of Shabbat on a Torah level. However, if he's standing outside, if the poor man is standing outside, and the balabayit, the guy on the inside of the house, hands it to his hand, and he receives it, that's called that the guy inside placed it down. When the hand is in the same domain as the body, then it's considered, if you place it in the guy's hand, that it was placed down. That's called, it was, there the hand will be considered like the body, that it's resting. But when the hand is in one domain and the person is in a different domain, we don't look at it that the hand is like, it's resting when it's in the hand. If it's not considered resting, so when he moves it, he's not uprooting. In order to uproot something, you have to uproot something from something that's resting. But if it's not considered resting, it's not called uprooting. It's not called uprooting. He didn't do the first step of the violation. He didn't do the first step. He does not have to bring a sin offering. I want to wish everyone a beautiful day. Yes, sir.
In the previous example, guy with the bag goes out. Why is that unintentional? It seems intentional to me. Why would that be considered unintentional?
He didn't know the laws of Shabbat.
Oh, I didn't know.
He didn't know it was not allowed. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you, Marsh. Thank you. All the best. Aaron, great to have you back. Ralph, thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too, Rabbi.